Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Working at the Innovation Hub, Summer 2024. We're really excited to welcome you to today's event for you to learn a little bit about what it's like to work at the Innovation Hub and some upcoming exciting projects that we have going forth. It will be myself and Tiffany facilitating our session today. And as mentioned previously, the session will be recorded and we will be sharing slides and the recording shortly after our presentation. To begin, we'd like to start with a land acknowledgement. Land acknowledgements are essential to the work that we do and really helping us ground today's session and beyond. And the land acknowledgement on the screen is co-created and written with the University of Toronto and members of the community, and it reads as follows. So we wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. As you're reflecting on what this land means to you and coming for your situating to be where you are today, I'd like to share just a little personal note for what my relationship to this land means. And this photo on the screen often is a representation of what I really believe and feel that my relationship with the land is like. And this photo is taken at one of my favorite places in Toronto, at the Toronto Harbourfront. And for me, when I think of my relationship with this land, I'm often thinking about the people in my life that have supported me to get to where I am today. And I came from British Columbia to pursue higher education here at U of T. And this photo really is just a representation of the people that helped me along the way. And I'm always reflecting and thankful for those memories that have really shaped to where I am today. If you're curious to learn about your relationship with this land or the physical land that you may be residing on, since we're all in various digital spaces across the province, the world, we do have a link that I'd share in the chat. It is called nativeland.ca. It's a really great resource for you to explore and learn about the specific land that you're residing on. So Tiffany just pasted in the chat, and I'd encourage you to learn about it. Our next slide is our access check. So with every event or session that we like to hold, we understand that access is a shared responsibility between everyone in this space. So we will strive to create an accessible space that reduces the need for you to disclose disability or impairment for the purpose of gaining accommodation. In doing this, together, we strive to welcome disability and the changes it brings to our space. So right now, I'd like to open up this space. If there's anything about our digital space that we should address now to make it more accessible, or are there any other access needs that might affect your participation in this session that we'd like to address? So if there's any notes that you'd like to highlight, feel free to add them in the chat, or you can direct message myself or email me, and I'm happy to accommodate. So we'll take a short moment to see if there's any things that have emerged. Okay, perfect. As things progress throughout the session, you're welcome to send me a note. And with that, I'll pass it over to Tiffany to kick us off today.
Thanks, Paul. Hi, everyone. We're going to start today's session by going through the agenda. We're going to start with some welcomes, some introductions, and go into a little bit about Innovation Hub, into design thinking, and then our focus of equity at the Innovation Hub. Then we'll go through and learn a bit about why you should work here and some of the projects and roles that we have for summer 2024 and how you can apply to work with us. And we will try to leave some time at the end for any Q&As that anyone may have. And so to start, I thought we could have a little introduction and welcome. If you are comfortable in the chat, please feel free to share your names, your pronouns, your role and program at U of T. And then while everyone is putting in their introductions, I also want to put a few reminders about today's session, that the session is being recorded, and that to please mute yourself if you aren't speaking, as there are many people in the call today. And as mentioned before, we will try to leave some time at the end for questions. but if they can't be answered, feel free to put them in the chat. Cheryl and Amelia, our team members, will be monitoring the chat to help answer any questions. And we welcome videos on. We would love to meet and see everyone, but it is not required. But that is just a little something. But feel free to put introductions and welcomes in the chat. All right, so while that is happening, I would like to introduce our leadership team. If, change the slide, so yeah. So we have our leadership team here. We have a lot of our team members with us today, and I'll let them introduce yourselves, but I think I will start. First, we have Julia Arworth, who is our manager here at Innovation Hub. She couldn't make it today, so I am here in her place. My name is Tiffany. I use she, her, or they, them pronouns, and I am the current research lead at Innovation Hub. I think I'll pass it over to Paul to introduce himself.
Awesome. Thanks, Tiffany. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Paul. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the senior project assistant here at the Innovation Hub. I'm in my Master's of Education in Higher Education. I'll pass it over to Lydia.
Thanks, Paul. Hi, everyone. My name is Lydia. I'm UTQAP Research Lead and Program Coordinator here for the Innovation Hub. And UTQAP stands for University of Toronto Quality Assurance Process. And essentially, we work with different academic units at the university to improve student experience in the academic matter. And I'll pass it to Cheryl.
Hey everyone, I'm Cheryl. I use any pronouns. I am the research coordinator at the Innovation Hub, so I provide a lot of support to Tiffany and all of the research teams, as well as leading some of the community engagement, social programming, and stuff. I am a recent graduate of U of T in the same class as Lydia, and I double majored in psychology and neuroscience. And like Tiffany mentioned, I'm going to be one of the people who will be moderating the chat today. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to drop them right in there, or if you would prefer, you can message me privately as well, and I'll be happy to tackle anything individually. And with that, I will lead it to Mike.
Hi everyone, I'm Mike. I'm the Digital Communications Coordinator at the iHub, and I mainly lead the communication team and was responsible for visual reports and any visual materials that we produce at iHub. And I recently graduated from the Master of Information program at University of Toronto with a concentration in user experience design. And now I'll pass to Ruth.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ruth. I am the Qualitative Data Archivist team lead at the Innovation Hub. I'm also a Master of Education student in social justice education. My pronouns are she, her, pardon me. I'll pass it off to Amelia.
Hi everyone, I'm Amelia. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the current team lead for the Commuter Student Spaces project. I'm also a recent graduate from the Master of Health Science in Translational Research program here at U of T. And I'll also be helping out in the chat today to answer any questions you have. And I'll pass it over to Sophie.
Thanks, Amelia. Hi, everyone. My name is Sophie, and I am the team lead for the Sport and Rec project this year. And I recently graduated from the Master of Information program where I studied UX design, and I use the pronouns she, her. I'll pass it on to Hannah.
Thank you, Sophie. Hello, everyone. I'm Hannah. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the design research team lead for the First 48 Hours in Canada project for international students. And at U of T, I'm a third year studying literature and history. And then I'll pass it on to Elvin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elvin. I'm currently doing my Master of Education in Education Leadership and Policy. At Innovation Hub, I'm the design research team lead for the experience of students who are also parents project. So now thank you. So now I pass it over to Paul or Tiffany.
Great. Thank you, team, so much for introducing yourselves. And thank you, everyone who has introduced themselves in the chat. I'd love to see it, so many people. And yeah, I think that's a great place for us to all meet each other. So I think we can jump in with some of the content that we want to go through today. So we're going to start with an overview of what the Innovation Hub is. So the Innovation Hub, we're situated within the Division of Student Life, and we're an initiative that is led primarily by students to support the development of innovative strategies for improving the student experiences at U of T. We use human-centered design thinking to improve campus at U of T, campus life at U of T. We hire and train an interdisciplinary student design team through the work study program, so different programs, different levels of study, and we partner with the U of T divisions and departments to work on real design projects to understand student experiences. You've got some of the team leads. We'll talk about the projects a little later. And our big idea here is that we design with rather than for students, because we take a peer-to-peer approach to our research. And the real reason we exist and this place is because it's co-created with students to design this place together, and for all of you to have a great work integrated learning experience and to have fun and to sort of raise the bar of where you can see yourself in your careers and what can really go on here at U of T. In context to the university, this translates into our mission of student-centered design aimed at improving campus life. In this, we combine design thinking towards making changes at U of T to support our vision, which is a campus experience that is designed for every student to flourish academically, socially, and personally. And we do this through our mission. So we have some 5 values here. The first one being accessibility by design. It's the idea that accessibility shouldn't be an accident or an add-on, but here we design with accessibility in mind from the very beginning. So all of our projects, our events, and materials are available to as many people as possible. Our second sort of value is equity, diversity, and inclusion. So we want to learn about more than just one group of U of T students. There isn't just like one idea of what a U of T student is. And we want to learn and design for everyone. So by practicing equity-centered community design, we find insights and solutions that include all students and community partners. We also listen to student experiences. So we're driven by student stories, and we want to understand their journeys, and it's a very key part to us in eliciting cultural change. We also inspire with meaningful data. So here, as you will learn, we use design thinking, user experience, and qualitative research techniques to find and query on data and their underlying needs. And so by combining evidence and empathy, we help the U of T community to better understand its members. And lastly, we learn together. So we work with both students and staff and our interdisciplinary teams. We pull out all of our curiosities to learn new techniques and to solve all the problems that we aim to tackle. And I want to start by showing these 5 domains of innovation. And this is what we kind of use a lot to spearhead a lot of our projects. And these 5 domains of innovation were crowdsourced with participation from hundreds of students, faculties, and staff at U of T. And this started at a launch event that we had where we asked students and staff and faculty to brainstorm what students need to live a good life. And at each table, we asked them to sort of refine their ideas, and then it came up to identify these 5 aspirational domains of innovation. And these domains were built to give scope to our work, which oftentimes can be very ambiguous. So this kind of helps us narrow it down. And the first insight here was that U of T staff and students value equity, diversity, and inclusion deeply. And there was a sense of that the Innovation Hub should look at how we live out these values in our daily interactions with students. And we knew that creating a process that was equitable with a diverse team and inclusive to all for anyone who was willing to participate was very important. And we also knew that we needed to ensure that the voices and stories of diverse students were included within the process. And the second insight was the importance of community felt by students, and that was a central process. So the community felt strongly that the process should be inclusive of students at every point. And so this insight helped us form a team structure that included included students and staff as co-leaders for each domain in an equal number of students, with staff working together on projects for each of the domains, which is access for every student, fostering connection, future-ready students, integrated learning experience, and whole student development. And all of this comes together in the process, the what and the how of our work and why we do it, and how this involves students and our partners toward meaningful consultation and improving campus life. And as you can see here, it's visualized in this wheel where we have captured our mission at the very center and mapped out our process around it. And so I'm going to just stop talking for a bit and pass it to Paul to talk a little bit about equity in our work.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tiffany. So as mentioned, equity is so deeply important to the work we do here at the Innovation Hub. Equity begins at the start and is the foundation of our works. We recognize and acknowledge that we all come with biases, both implicit and explicit. And at the Innovation Hub, we truly inspire to challenge ourselves to work in an anti-oppressive, anti-racist framework that acknowledges the need to work for reconciliation, especially as settlers to this land. We'll speak a little bit more about equity and its importance of the work later on. So how do all of these methods come into practice? In our projects, we see how students can define complex problems at the university when we listen to student experiences. We also see new opportunities for students to build community with one another, and where we need to be mindful when engaging with different communities. We learn about responsibility and reciprocity with each other. Students then become empowered when they are part of the design process, and no matter what project, students learn that they are not alone, which is so incredibly important. All of these aren't necessarily exclusive to one another, but we'll go through a few projects to bring design thinking and our processes to life. Over to you, Tiffany.
Thanks, Paul. So to give us a sense of our work and what we do, here are some examples of some of the projects we worked on this year. So first we have our Commuter Student Spaces project. And this was a project we did in collaboration with Spaces and Experiences at U of T to explore the needs of commuter students, particularly students from equity deserving populations, to make design decisions for future spaces or existing spaces on campus to better fit their needs. And throughout, as I talk about each project, I'm going to be putting a link to our blog about the project if you would like to learn a little more. So the next project we have here is experiences of students who are also parents. So this project was in partnership with the Family Care Office and the Innovation Hub. We aim to explore the needs and perspectives of students who are also going to school while they are parents to better understand their experiences on campus. And we have worked with the Family Care Office before, and we have continued our partnership with them because we feel that this project is very important to understand just another group of people at U of T that deserve to have their voices heard. And lastly, we have the Sport and Rec project, which is Sport and Rec Reimagining Access. And this is actually a second phase of a partnership that we did with Sport and Rec in 2022, which was called Diversity in Movement, Expanding Access at Sport and Rec. And here, this project aimed to explore the needs of students not currently engaged in Sport and Rec programmings and spaces, with the focus of needs of equity deserving populations to explore the opportunities to engage a broader community and for collaboration. And within phase 2, through co-creation events, field journals, and interviews, we continue to explore how we could reimagine Sport and Rec programs. And now I'm going to jump into a little bit about our methods here, which is design thinking. So the primary premise of design thinking is the idea that people support what they want to create. So a design or an innovation won't be successful unless people who have to use it, they get behind it, they have a stake in it. So in this context, that means that, administration and the students need to get behind the work that's being done to have their support. The stakeholders and the end users should always be involved in the process of generating ideas. So within design thinking, it's very a very human-centered approach to solving problems. While traditional problem-solving processes can focus on things such as feasibility and viability, design thinking starts with desirability. So design thinkers build on empathy with everyone that they work with by observing or interviewing them to better understand what they truly want and what they need. And then we frame a challenge based on all of these needs, and we brainstorm creative solutions, we prototype, and then we test them to get the feedback of, in this case, typically students. And so one thing that I really want to highlight is that design thinking is both a methodology and a mindset. So we'll focus first on the methodology, because it's through going through the process that is laid out by design thinking that one actually gets to start thinking differently about how you want to approach change and problem solving. So in turn, it becomes a mindset. After you get to know the process of it, it's ingrained and becomes a mindset. And part of this mindset for design thinking that is really important to learning is that failure is part of the process, and it's actually essential for learning and what we think and how we think about problems and new ways in order to ideate and prototype solutions. So failure is an essential part of the learning. And so when getting into design thinking mindset, it requires us to learn how we fail and how to fail well, I guess. In the Innovation Hub, we strive to be a space that welcomes and encourages all of this. And within the process of innovation, we set up steps that you'll learn throughout the course of your time here, and you'll have a chance to practice them. So you'll come to see that, for example, empathy is at the core of our process, and how the steps we carried out really depends on the people that we design for. And so, as mentioned before, oftentimes students here. And so the design thinking approach starts with people who are impacted by the use of this design. And by bringing them into the research, as mentioned before, the process allows them to really share and inform the outcomes of their research. It can influence the design, and it can thus sort of adjust the solutions to really suit their needs. So in this way, it's very human-centered, putting humans and their diverse needs at the center of the design. And human-centered design is all about building this deep empathy with people you're designing for. So you're generating a ton of ideas, you're building a bunch of prototypes, and then you're sharing what you've made with the people that you're designing for. And eventually you're putting all of these solutions out into the world. And the best solutions come from the best insights when you've talked to people and humans. And so if you Google design thinking, you'll notice that you'll find a lot of different models. We won't go into everything in great detail today, but here are just a few links on the slides that you will get later if you want to learn a little bit more about them. So at the very top left, you can see the Stanford D school model, and it's the most known design thinking model, and has 5 steps of has 5 steps where you start with empathizing, defining, ideating, prototyping, and testing. If you Google it, this tends to be the first one that comes out, but there's also other models. For example, the liberatory design model, and this was a result of a group of designers that took the D school model and decided to bring more of an equity lens into it. And so that's where the liberatory design model came out, and it brought in the ideas that the designers or people who work on the projects need to bring in their own biases and live experiences into the process to encourage us to notice how our own identities and positionalities can have an impact on our research process. And we do a lot of noticing and reflecting work at the Innovation Hub as well. The next model you'll see is the equity-centered community design model, which brings together the concept of community development, equity work, and design thinking. And this one really focuses on acknowledging the history and the healing of a population of people that you're working with, and sort of the power constructs that are important to consider. And then lastly, what you will see is you'll see the Innovation Hub model. And one thing to really note is that it's long and winding. I think what we're trying to say here is that it's designed to show that the way that we complete design projects isn't always linear, and our process is quite iterative. And so we've had our own model throughout the years. And when considering innovation, I just want to talk about how the ideal within your innovation process is within this trifecta of considering desirability, feasibility, and viability. The sweet spot kind of lies somewhere in between all three of them. So desirability, we always want to think of the desirable solution, the ones that people feel like they really need. Are we solving for the right issues and pain points? But we also need to consider feasibility. So is it a feasible solution? Are we building on the strengths of what is currently available within the resources? And then the viability. So is it something that is sustainable going forward? So if you miss any of this, then some of the implementation of the ideas won't always work, And so for instance, let's talk about an example of a past project. So we can talk about the student parents project, right? So student parents need a lot of support. And among them, maybe one of the most common things you'll hear is daycare. We need daycare support. So assume creating like daycare centers is a good desirable solution because it addresses that pain point of, well, parents need childcare while they're going to school. But in reality, what we have to think about is also the feasibility and the viability. Sometimes it doesn't really work because maybe U of T doesn't have the operational capabilities right now to support more daycares. So it might not be a viable solution, and it could attract more students if it happened, but because it's not feasible, the implementation of the idea doesn't always work out. So that's an example to think about. When approaching design thinking process, no matter the model or the multiple modes that are used, one thing that we really want to emphasize at the Innovation Hub is the importance of empathy and how it can make the design thinking process more attuned to the news and really result in meaningful insights into our research. So perhaps, and maybe surprisingly, empathy is not always associated with research, but empathy is really a key within at least our methodology for involving our participants in our research and attuning to their needs, because empathy ultimately is about this holistic understanding of the people that we work with. So it's not just reducing to just understanding like the struggles or the negative experiences that people have, but we also want to learn about people's positive experiences and their worldviews and their logic and how they think about things, how they experience their identity, and all of the trials and triumphs too, if I had to summarize it. And I think, and we think this is what really helps us to understand the deeper needs of the people that we talk to in our projects. So in design thinking, empathy is used as a tool to expand your ability to really listen and to learn about the experiences of our participants. And we draw on empathy to better understand our research participants while being aware of our biases. We listen and we're open and oftentimes even surprised by what we hear, rather than walking into research confirming what we think we already know or judging what we think the outcome will be. And so I think that empathy plays a huge part in making our work equity informed and equity driven. So as Paul underscored earlier, we are driven by access and inclusion here, and it resonates with the need to include our participants in the research and the learning process. And so we can take a step back a bit and be like, so what does equity mean? And so drawing from this working definition from the National Equity Project, equity means that every person receives what they need to develop their full academic and social potential. And so this visual on the right, I feel like effectively captures the definition of what we're trying to clarify. So in that, if we see here, we have equality at the top when everyone is given an equal amount of resources or opportunities to have access. So in this case, everyone gets a bike. But if we look at equity, this is where everyone is provided resources so that they're supported to have access to the same experience. So in this case, everyone gets a bit of consideration for what they need. And so the playing field is a little bit more leveled. So for example, the person on the wheelchair needs a different bike than the person who's taller or the person who's a little smaller. So the idea here is with equitable treatment, it ensures that people get what they need. And it's the surest way to ensure that there's justice in our work. And so as designers and as researchers, our aim is to always to have equity as a central component in our thinking about the ways to level our playing field within all of the research projects that we do, so that everyone gets what they need and can thrive and to realize their potentials. And at the Innovation Hub, both empathy and equity inform our methods. We use a lot of qualitative methods based in ethnography around open-ended storytelling and question asking, which allows research participants to really communicate their experiences in the way that's important to them. And so using open-ended methods within our question asking and techniques means that the participant rather than us or the question sort of drives what they want to tell us. And so participants can answer however they want, however they need, and we as researchers will consider their answers carefully, and maybe we figure out that maybe our questions missed the mark, why they might have answered in a certain way, and it really helps us to center their answers and their stories. And after we do our interviewing process within our analysis portion of our work, we draw on grounded analysis approaches, which start with the data always. And so we work out to build patterns and eventually insights from the ground up. And what we mean by that is our analysis are specific to our projects in a way, and they're open-ended, again, centering our participants and what they share with us, as opposed to some set categories that we come in with. And the aim of these methods and models and the use of design thinking is all about making change in the small, meaningful ways first and foremost. And we do that by learning and empathizing with people that we are designing for. And in the process, sometimes the process even changes us. So as we change and as the culture changes, everything shifts slowly, and design thinking is, in a sense, all about thinking about culture change and what we do in these small ways to impact people. And to close off the sort of session, the aim section, I should say, the aim of these methods and models of design thinking is all about making change in small, meaningful ways first and foremost, and then empathizing with people that we design with. And so I think I will end it there and turn over to learn a little bit more about our summer 2024 term. Before we jump into some of the jobs and opportunities that we had, I want to do a bit of an activity. So we're going to show our mural board into the chat, and you can click here and answer the question of what you're looking for within a work study role. So what's important to you in a work study role? Okay, thank you. Cheryl has dropped the mural into the chat. All right, and feel free to click in on that and start answering some questions. I think also for the sake of time, maybe we will keep going and we'll talk a little bit about the roles, and then we'll come back to everyone's answers if that seems okay. And so let's look into why you should work at the Innovation Hub. Well, firstly, it's a great opportunity to gain experience outside of your classroom or a degree and work on a real research process. It also has hands-on experience with qualitative research, working with stakeholders and partners within U of T, and it's a very community-based opportunity. Additionally, it's a meaningful and supportive working and learning environment. We hope that you can come in and feel that you are supported with your growing and with your learning. And lastly, it's a great opportunity if you want to be able to connect with students from across the university and learn about new opportunities. This is our current team right now. As you can see, it just has me and Paul and Julia, is because we have a bunch of new projects coming in and we need students, we need team members to come and join us. And we'll go into a little bit more detail in a bit. And thank you, Paul. So we have some elements here that we look for in our application. We understand that everyone is a little different, but I really want to highlight that things such as having the openness to grow, to learn new things, willing to engage in the iterative and responsiveness of our process with our feedback when things come up when you don't expect them to in our project work. These are some things that are really, really important to us. And it's all in the learning at the end of the day, but having an interest in student experiences and contributing to your own way, these are some things that can go a very long way here. So I want to share some of the design thinking projects that we have starting in the summer. So the first one is engagement and belonging students with disabilities. So this project is we're partnering with accessibility services at U of T, where they are seeking to understand and gain a better understanding about the factors that enable students with disabilities to fully engage in campus life and identify where the gaps exist. And these projects really aim to understand students' needs and to identify tangible ideas and champion access and inclusion for students with disabilities. The next project is equity, diversity, and inclusion and access at the School of Environment. So the School of the Environment at U of T's Faculty of Arts and Science is seeking to understand how equity, diversity, inclusion, and access in the School of Environment can really flourish. So the project aims to gain a meaningful understanding of student perspectives to better champion the experiences of students and to make sure that EDI and access is really enhanced. And the last project I want to talk about is called Frontline Patient Care at Health and Wellness. So this will be in collaboration with Health and Wellness at U of T to improve the student experiences with the frontline reception team. So this project really aims to look at all the possible interaction points with frontline receptions across various communication formats within various points of time. And so the ultimate goal here is that the findings of the project will inform programming and services delivery in a way that creates opportunities for some omni-channel marketing and in the future to make sure that frontline patient care is the best that it can be. All right, so let's go into some of the roles that will be available in the summer. So we have design researcher roles for each of the projects mentioned, engagement and belonging, students with disabilities, EDI and A at the School of Environment, and frontline care and health wellness. We also have a role called community engagement designer and event facilitator. This is a fun role that kind of combines building community at Innovation Hub with a little bit of research. So we do smaller projects. So if you have event planning that you really like, community building, but you want to learn a little bit of research, this might be a great role. We also have our qualitative data archivist role. This is a role that really works within the data. It works with archiving and analyzing and coding. So if that is of interest to you, the qualitative data archivist role is great for that. We have a lot of roles within sort of a communication lens. So first we have graphic designer. They are housed in our digital storytelling team. They make the graphics, the assets, they format our reports. They're very, very important in making sure that our message and everything goes out. So if you're interested in making, for example, the slide deck or some of these graphics, the graphic designer role might be for you. If you have some UI or UX experience, we are looking for a team of students to help redesign our website. So you can be a UI/UX web designer. And if you have editing or videography experience, we have a role just for that. Same thing with a photographer. If you'd like to make some content for Innovation Hub, those two roles would be great. And if you are a passionate writer, you should consider our blog editor and content writer. This is a great role, and the blog is one of the first things that a lot of people learn about us. So if you'd like to write for a blog, you should consider that role. All right, so let's go back to our mural board here. Maybe I can pass it to Cheryl to see if there are some summaries about what people are looking for in a work study role.
Sure. So thank you to everyone who contributed something to the mural board. It looks like we got a ton of different responses. So I think one of the big things that I noticed right off the bat is a ton of people talking about skill building as something that's really important for them in a work study role. So, I mean, totally makes sense in terms of gaining experience. Some people named research skills specifically. Other people talked about transferable skills. Some people talked about like a specific domain they'd like to work in particular. Someone mentioned they are interested in working in student services, so they want to gain experience working with students. Other people have talked about being able to apply their skills from school in practical environments. So I definitely see this whole kind of domain of being able to build specific skills, gain experience is really important. Another thing I see is people talking about flexibility. There's one person who mentions working remotely, which I think is something that may not be a great fit for what we have to offer here, since a lot of our work really focuses on being in person. So I think if you are looking for something that has the type of flexibility, we're of course happy to provide accommodation wherever it's possible, but a lot of our work does focus on trying to be able to get people together in an in-person space. So just to highlight that if that's an important priority for what you're looking for in a work study role, this might not be the best fit for you. But I do see some other comments also about being able to have an environment that really fosters learning, that fosters flexibility, that fosters support. I also see a lot about networking, which is really cool. A lot of people talking about meeting people who have similar passions. So for instance, service design, receiving mentorship. There's also I think some people who have talked about meeting professionals, entrepreneurs, other people within the innovation ecosystem. I can definitely testify to this point. I know there are a lot of people who are interested in the UI UX field, for instance, who come into the Innovation Hub. So we have several people who are on the leadership team who previously mentioned they're from the Master of Information program, but I know I'm in a very different field. I'm like about to start my PhD in social psychology, and I actually got some of the best advice I received about applying for degrees in that field from people who I met through working here. So I think regardless of whether you plan to go into design thinking work formally, there's still lots of great opportunities to network. And then I think lastly, just to close this off, I also see a lot of people talking about having some sense of purpose. Someone wrote, "I'm actually helping people, LOL." As something that's important to them in all caps. And I think there's also a lot of other people who have mentioned working with vulnerable populations, getting to meet people and learn their stories. And I think that's also something that we really pride ourselves on being able to provide in a work study role, is this opportunity to create meaningful change in the community. But I think a lot of responses that really speak to some of the things that Tiffany and Paul have touched on previously, especially around creating a really learning focused environment here. But again, thank you to everyone who submitted response to this. I think it's always a fun exercise to see. And it's always like a kind of a good vibe going into the work study application period. But I can pass things back over to Tiffany then.
Thank you so much, Cheryl, for doing our little summary, and thank you everyone who participated. We've talked a lot at you, so we're going to talk a little bit more, but now we're going to go straight into how to apply here if you're still interested in working. So I'll pass it to Paul to share that information.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tiffany. So we'll dive in to learn about applying to the Innovation Hub and some of the detailed logistics around that. So I'm going to kind of go through some of our application process, and I'll just share in the chat the details where you can actually apply today. So at the Innovation Hub, we have our application process, and for our number of applications and positions that we shared earlier on the link that I just shared in the chat, as well as through the slides that you'll be receiving shortly after, you'll be applying through a Microsoft form with your resume and cover letter. So what you can do is you can select all the roles that you're interested in. However, we do want to note that when you apply to one role at the Innovation Hub, we consider you for all roles. So we really look at your application holistically to really understand what different skill sets could really do well in the different roles that we have offered and available. So once you apply through the Microsoft form, the deadline to apply will be April 10th at 11:59, and applications will be accepted on a rolling basis, and we'll be scheduling interviews on that rolling basis, but the absolute deadline will be April 10th. From then, folks will be going through an interview process, and then selected candidates will be attending a training on Friday, May 10th. 2024. So that will be the big day where all of us will convene together for our wonderful orientation. For our application, these are just a few tips that we wanted to share with you, or hints, just so you can curate a really strong application. So as mentioned, apply for one position, we will consider you for all. Another piece is to check our website to learn a little bit more about our work. You're coming to this event today is a really great starting place for you to learn about our values, our whys, and how we're really making impact in the University of Toronto community. So check our website and really see how you can tailor your application materials appropriately. Another piece is we want you to think about the length of your application, and we want you to be succinct and clear. When you can really capture your experiences with that concision, it could really demonstrate your abilities quite strongly. Another piece is make sure you read through the applications carefully, and on that link I just shared in the chat, you'll be able to dive in and look at all of the respective job descriptions, the qualifications and responsibilities. So read through it in detail and see how you can tailor it to the program. Another piece is it's important that you are eligible for the work study program. So this is a work study opportunity. So you do need to be an enrolled student at the University of Toronto for the summer semester. And it does depend on your respective faculty, whether you're an undergrad or a graduate student. So check in to make sure you're eligible. You can connect with your registrar to confirm. And finally, share why you want to be part of our team. We really want to learn about you, your interests, and what makes you unique, and share as much as you'd love with us. And we'd love to know more about you in your application. As a quick overview, just if you're not aware of what the work study program is, the work study program is a really great program across the University of Toronto with over 3,500 students participating each term. And it's really an opportunity for you to deepen your knowledge, strengthen your skills, and also explore how your academic studies can translate to career possibilities. And often in our roles, a lot of our students come to the Innovation Hub, they learn really great skills, and they're able to go into their careers that are often becoming their dream careers. And it's really great to see students really engage with artwork. A few other pieces are this role, it is co-curricular record recognized, so CCR recognized. So if you're interested in that, that's also a nice bonus. Then furthermore, we do provide additional professional development opportunities. We do offer a one-on-one coaching with your respective team leads, so they'll really work through goals and competencies so you can develop and really achieve through your term. And then finally, as I mentioned, you must be eligible for this program. Just a few notes over the summer. So the work study program is at a fixed rate of $16.55 per hour. And you typically will be working 6 to 8 hours per week with a maximum of 15 hours. There is 100 hours maximum for the May to August summer work study term. So just so you can kind of get a gauge of what the work study program is like. The next piece is how we're working this term. So applicants must be able to work in person at our St. George campus location. Our work is fully in person, where team meetings, project work, and additional events all happen in person, where there'll be moments of asynchronous virtual Teams Connect. So Microsoft Teams is our communication between meetings. So we really do believe that our work in design thinking really becomes really strong because of our work in person. We're able to collaborate in our in-person co-working space, which you can see on our screen. Team members could really post a note, ideate together, and it's a really great environment, but also just to build community with each other. And that's why we really value that in-person work experience. And then just to close before I turn it over back to Tiffany. So as mentioned, these are important dates for you to take a look at. So you can apply through the Microsoft form today. You can look at this link at uft.me/iHubWorkStudy, and you can submit your application today. And as mentioned, they're closing on April 10th. To close, just a reminder for folks, if you're curious to stay engaged with our work, subscribe to our blog at uft.me/innovation hub. And then following today, in the next couple of days, you'll receive the event recording and slide deck over email. And then finally, check out CLNX and the Work Study program, as well as the Career Exploration Center. They would really be providing really great resources for you to really curate your application. With that, over to you, Tiffany, to conclude us for today.
All right, so to conclude, I just want to thank everyone for coming out and learning a little bit more about the opportunities that we have for this summer. As mentioned before, and Amelia has put in the chat, visit our website if you'd like to learn more. You can get in touch with us. If you have any questions after the session, feel free to email us, and maybe one of our team members can put our email into the chat. However, we do have some time left over, so I do want to open this space up for any questions. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. You can also go off off mute and ask the questions. And this will be the remaining time to answer any of those questions. Other than that, we also have a QR code on our screen if you want to apply through there. But thank you so much for coming, everyone. And we will be here for a few minutes to answer any questions.